Okay everyone, it's me here again bringing you another video. This one is going to be over a movie called From Dusk Till Dawn. Now, this movie, when I usually I say I only have a few favorite vampire movies, and it's usually only Interview with the Vampire and the first Underworld movie. But I forgot about it because I've only seen it once before, but From Dusk Till Dawn is also a vampire movie. It's a very interesting one with George Clooney and oh god, what's his name? Quentin Tarantino, and they play the main characters. They play the Gecko brothers. George Clooney plays Seth Gecko, and Quentin Tarantino plays Richie Gecko. And to me, this is George Clooney's best performance I've ever seen. I've always thought that, and I don't know why. It's just my favorite. I think to me, he plays those kind of outlaw type characters very well, and his character in this is, I don't want to say he's a good guy because he robs banks. He calls himself a professional thief, but he doesn't go out there and just kill people. He'll do it if he has to, but he would rather avoid it. Whereas his brother, in the movie at least, is a little bit crazy and he'll go out and actually kill people. Now, there's a TV show and they portray him a little bit differently, and that I watched it and I thought it was very well done. The guy who plays Seth Gecko and that's actually very good. But the way the other brother, Richie's portrayed in both of them is very different. But in the movie, he's just kind of a little crazy. He just has something wrong with him. You can tell, especially when he stares at the daughter of a preacher. And I guess I should explain that in this, there's kind of two stories going on. There's the Gecko brothers stories, and then there's this other family. They're a religious family, and their story is the dad's kind of lost his faith for whatever reason. Uh, I believe the wife died, and he kind of lost his faith in God and everything, and so he takes his adopted son and his daughter, and they just go to Mexico, and that's where the Gecko brothers meet them. They, because of what they've done, they have robbed banks, and everyone knows their face, and they're going after him, and they realize that if they use this family, they can get to Mexico, because this family's taking an RV there, because, if anyone's ever taken an RV, that's the perfect way to get to Mexico. So they do that, and they successfully get to Mexico through those means, and they come across this bar where where the Gecko brothers have to meet Carlos, their employer, who's going to pay him and take him to El Rey, and the this is where everything just kind of goes a little crazy. This is where oh gosh, what's his name? He played Machete, and he's in this, but he plays a bartender, and this bar is called the Titty Twister. And there's just something about this bar that every time I see it, I just laugh. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because there's crazy bikers there, but there's a there's a history to this bar. This bar is not what it actually seems, and I'll tell that a little bit later. But when they get in this bar, it everything looks ordinary. Look what a bar is and everything. That everyone there is acting how they should, I guess I should say. And a little bit later, there's basically a strip bar, I guess I should say, and this I think she's the owner of it comes out, and she's put on an act and everything like she's one of the dancers, but she's actually a vampire, and she attacks them a little bit later because something happens. There's a guy they beat up when they get to the bar. He comes in with a couple of other guys, and they attack Richie, so that makes Seth react, and he shoots him. And the woman, this is when she turns into a vampire. She turns into a vampire, attacks them, kills Richie, who later on in the story turns into a vampire, and Seth kills him. But everyone there who is a vampire turns into one and starts attacking the other people that think it's an actual bar. And the thing about this is, the vampires are using this bar kind of, I guess, as a cover, and they do this so they can feed on people, get people there and feed them. And the way they do this is, after they kill them, they take all their stuff, they hide it somewhere in the bar, and they have the truck set up in a way that they can't see past the bar. And what it is behind the bar, there's just this giant hole. Kind of, I guess it's on the side of a mountain or something. Over time, I don't know how this worked, but there's like this. It's like I don't know if they didn't show the full thing. You can't really see it, but by the end of the movie, they show like the backside of the place, and it's like, I'm assuming what's a pit pretty much now, and they can't see back there, and they just toss everything, vehicles, stuff from like the conquistadors, and they just throw them in this giant pit. And as I said, for some reason, no one notices the stuff back there. I'm assuming just because, for whatever reason, they can't see it, but the vampires have set up all the trucks and stuff in a way beside the bar that they can't see past this. No one's ever thought of going around there to the back. I have no idea why. But this, because it's like a mountain, it's like the top part that's the bar is leveled, and then it just drops off, and what you see is that the top part of the bar is actually just a giant temple. And I'm assuming it's a temple where the vampires like lived this whole time. That's the only thing I can assume. And that's kind of like their place. And so because of that, they've hid there all this time, and like I said, they've done this and they've lured people into thinking it's an actual bar and then killed them. But by the end of it, the only people that are really left is just there's Seth and Kate. Kate is the daughter of the preacher, and Jacob and Scott are killed along the way. Jacob, who was bit by a, I think it was Sex Machine. Sex Machine's a hilarious character in the TV show and in the movie. He in the crotch area, he has like a belt, but it's like a covers the whole part, and it's like a gun. It just pops out, and it's like there's just this little rifle there, and it shoots him. There's just Sex Pistol's probably one of the most, probably the second most interesting character in this, because as I said, I found George Clooney's character to be the most interesting, because he's, like I said, his character's not bad, and he's not good. I guess the closest thing I could rate him, he's more of like a Robin Hood type character. I mean, he won't go out of his way and like give money to the poor, but he's not gonna kill someone just because he wants to. As I said earlier, he's a professional thief, and that's what he does. His brother's the one that kills him, but he doesn't like that his brother kills him. And through this way, he's kind of questioning his brother. He doesn't know exactly what's up with his brother. He just knows something's wrong. But by the end of this, as I said, Scott's bitten by Jacob, and Jacob was actually killed by Scott, and vice versa. But actually, Scott was killed by the Kate, and I don't. This part I don't understand. I question whenever I see it, but he has like these water balloons, and it's holy water because Jacob was a preacher and did his thing, and bam, it's holy water because that's how it works. And I don't understand. She shoots Scott because Scott's getting mauled by these vampires, and he wants her to kill him, and so she shoots him. And when she shoots him, he blows up. I don't know if she hit one of the waters and it reacted and everything around it blew up, but that's kind of how it happened. Is just an explosion of holy water, and it was quite weird. And I still question how that worked because I don't understand it. But anyways, there's a little bit later when Seth and Kate are left. This is like the most, I guess I would call this a Deus Ex kind of moment where someone just happens to show up when there's Kate and Seth are surrounded by zombies. They bust open the door. It's actually Carlos and them who arrive just in time to save them, and these vampires die kind of just by any means. A gun just kind of probably immobilize them for a little bit, like shoot them in the leg, they're gonna fall over. But a stake to the heart, a cross, and light, it's kind of old-fashioned. And at this point, they're surrounded by all these zombies, what am I saying, vampires, and they stick that whole fashion of vampires turn to bats. And by the end, they're out of nowhere saved by Carlos, who arrives just in time, because they survive till morning, and he busts open the door, and I guess what saves them really is a disco ball, because a light beams through the door, and hits the disco ball, and as they run out, the rays hit the disco ball, go all over the place, and they just so happen to hit every single vampire there is in this entire room, and they all blow up, and by the end, it looks, from the front door, it looks like an explosion went on in there, is really what it looks like. And by the end of it, that's pretty much where this ends. Seth is extremely pissed because his brother died, and Kate's whole family is dead. And this is where I'm talking about the whole thing of, it kind of shows that he's not officially a bad guy. Because she asks if he can go with him because she has nowhere to go, but he doesn't want her to because of what there is in El Rey, which is never really stated. But he knows that it's not for her, so he sends her off on her way. And he kind of goes off on his own, following Carlos and them. And that's really where it ends. It was just, it's an interesting movie. I truly enjoyed it. I've only seen it a couple of times, and it's still my favorite. Just kind of how it all goes along. Seth and Richie get after the whole convenience store scene in the beginning, and them making their way to the motel where they end up coming across the Jacob and his family, who was the religious group. And I just found it really weird. Or very good, I should say. As I said, it's George Clooney's best role. I I don't know why. It's just those kind of roles seem to fit him very well. He plays them extraordinarily, and so honestly, I think because of his acting in it, it's probably what made it one of my more favorite movies. And it's really revolved around him and his brother more than it is the religious family. But to me, it was a good movie. It's really interesting and it's a good one to watch. If you've never seen it, if you have Netflix, it's on there. I advise watching that. And if you watch it and you like it, I would go watch the TV show, which only has one season right now, but the first season revolves around the first movie. And each movie has different characters in it, so the second movie doesn't have Seth in it, or Kate, since they were the only two left alive, because Richie was killed by the vampire in the first one, and uh, or killed by Seth after he turned into a vampire, and Jacob and Scott were killed in the first movie. But it looks like the TV show is gonna actually bring them back. But the TV show is said to take place in a alternate kind of parallel universe, so stuff happens a little bit differently. The convenience store scene's still there, but it happens a little bit differently in the TV show than it does in the movie. In the movie, it's just Seth, Richie, they still hold the girls hostage, and just the convenience store owner there, and they kind of have a little showdown there, which was kind of interesting to see. It was kind of funny. The convenience store guy in the movie made me laugh, especially when he's trying to take down Seth and Richie. But the events they still happen the way they still meet. The Seth and Richie still meet the religious family at the motel, and the whole thing of them using the RV to cross the border still happens, but there's some stuff in there that happens a little bit differently. So if you've seen the movie, it's still worth watching the TV show because, like I said, stuff happens differently. They've added a little bit more and a little bit more story to it, and it ends a little bit differently. It kind of goes through. The TV show goes a little bit more into how these vampires were formed, but of course, in the TV show, they're a little bit more than just vampires. They're a little bit, I guess, reptile-ish, I guess I should say. And they kind of explain that, which is what I liked about the TV show. But to me, I think George Clooney's role, I think he portrayed Seth Gecko very well, but the guy who does in the TV show does it just as well. It kind of reminds me of George Clooney's role. So, if you, as I said, if you've never seen the TV show or the movie, I would advise watching both of them. They're both on there. You don't need to watch the second movie or the third one. They're not as good. At least I can tell. I can say for the second one that the second movie is not as good as the first. I've never seen the third one. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say it's not as good because I believe it's a western. It's kind of like how the last Trimmers movie is. It's kind of explains some stuff. So, as far as I can tell, it's not worth a watch. They're not as it's nowhere near as good acting. So I would just watch the first one in the TV show. But as for that, I think I'll leave it there. Just in the comments, tell me if you liked the movie or if you didn't, and explain why. I would like to read that, or what your favorite vampire movie is. That'd be very interesting to read. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that, and I will see you guys next time.